We are jumping right back into the New Japan Cup after talking about some wrestling industry drama. If you guys don't know, go back into the catalog and listen to the previous episode before this one. But this is all about the New Japan Cup, and going forward will be all New Japan Cup review podcast episodes. Yes, I have been watched all of the episodes that I missed, and again, this is only reviewing the tournament matches, not any of the undercard matches, not any of the multi-man tag matches that progresses stories and anything else. And yes, I know who won the tournament. Congratulations to David Finlay. This is not a spoiler if you guys have been following along on your own for the New Japan Cup, but I will go in order of the nights until we get to the finals, and I'll talk about everything. I'll talk about all of the matches and give my 2 cents on the matches. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for tuning in to the Square Circle podcast hosted by yours truly, Marie Shadows. If you guys didn't know already, my Fourth Wall website is back up and running, and it has been improved. There is a lot of new content, a lot of new info. I basically have a about me section there, so you get to know what I did in WWE and what I done on the indies, and how you can get in touch with me if you ever want to collab or just talk about stuff, or just join the community, join the family that we are building right here of the Square Circle podcast. And I realized that after 6 years of doing this, because I started in 2019, after 6 years of doing this, and this is season 6 of the Square Circle podcast, that it is one huge project, one huge passion project that's forever going to be changing, that's forever going to be molding into something that is amazing and very valuable and knowledgeable to everyone that listens. And when I say changing, I don't mean like the name is going to change or anything like that, but shows will be added, shows will be taken away, stuff will be more focused on, stuff will be less focused on. But I'm really passionate about the idea of the Square Circle podcast being a huge passion project that can host my other shows, such as Tape Study, Chatter, and the Tape Study Roadmap, which is a program for wrestlers and anybody else in the business that want to get a fresh pair of eyes on their matches and get feedback and suggestions. I do not do that thing of, oh, it just sucks, so we can't really fix it. No, I'm trying to give you out of the box thinking. I'm trying to give you any kind of feedback that can help. If I see the strengths in your match, I'll be like, focus on this and that. And then later on your own time, focus on these weaknesses, even if it might be very little, because you never know. If you leave something that doesn't get nurtured or developed, and then when you are thrown into a situation where the weakness will arise, the fans will notice, and the fans will be a lot more worse than anybody else out there in the world. So I am here to be your cheerleader, be a person in your corner, and I will gladly love to review your matches and or promos, and all of that information is directly on my fourth wall. If you guys go down to the description box and or comments on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast, or on marieshadows.substack.com, or in the description box on Spotify and all major podcasting platforms. If you click on the fourth wall link, it will take you to the membership page to explain what the Tape Study Roadmap is. It is very similar to when I go live on YouTube and Twitch, and I'm really thinking about bringing back Kick, and I may end up adding Facebook. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But whenever I were to go live back in the pandemic days, the days that we really don't talk about, and I was really focused on the tape study portion, is where we watch professional wrestling matches and break it down, and I pause and I talk and I make it educational and I make it valuable. That's exactly what I do with the tape study roadmap. It's just more geared towards wrestlers who want a second opinion on their matches, a second opinion on their promos, and anything else that I could help them with, because it is a way for me to give back to the thing that I love the most, which is professional wrestling. And most of you guys that have been here with me since day one know this. Others, if you are just joining me, if you're just joining the party and the community and the family, welcome along. Thank you for doing that. But yeah, I just really love professional wrestling. I really love interacting with wrestlers, talking with wrestlers, making sure that the wrestlers are in the best position to succeed in whatever they want to do and have the best matches and tell the best stories. And if I can just give some type of advice, that will be amazing. So, just very quickly, let me put this over. So, if you want to become a member, which will help me out greatly for getting new equipment, for traveling to be booked on wrestling shows, to give you more vlogs, to give you more content. So, when deciding on a membership, just keep in mind that all memberships can be purchased through Fourth Wall. If you have a Twitch account, you can sync up your Twitch account to get the discount that is already added to the membership price. And that will be your discount as long as you are subscribed to on Twitch. It has all the breakdown on the website itself. Also, there is regular discounts on the Fourth Wall membership as well. So instead of paying the full price for 1 month, you could try it out for a discounted price, and then the next month it'll go back to regular price. I try to price everything in the mindset of everyone that has a budget, and so you can pick whichever one you want. Also, keep in mind that regular podcast episodes, such as this one that's going to be reviewing the New Japan Cup and wrestling shows, those will all remain free. Anything that needs to take a little bit more time, such as reacting to the Legends of Future Greats show and reacting to specific matches and reacting to stuff that you want me to react, that will take a little bit more longer in time because I am just one woman doing this where I need to set up everything, react to it, record it, edit it, make the thumbnail, upload it, and then everyone gets to view it. So that is what you will necessarily be paying for. The tape study series gets priority, interviews get priority, especially for questions and answer and some other stuff along the road. But the only thing that is free are there's multiple things that are free, I should say. The podcast episodes, the articles, the transcripts to the audio and video, and certain things I want to reveal. Everything that I've done in the past, all the catalog stuff, that's always going to be free. I'm not going to put that behind a paywall. So, like I said, there is the option of the tape study stuff and then priorities and stuff like that. For the wrestlers that are interested for getting feedback and me watching your matches and promos and giving you outside the box thinking for things, there is two different options. There is a monthly commitment of $16 where you get to have me as your cheerleader for as long as you want to stay committed, or if you want to try a one-off payment, that's $31 where I could just have one interaction, one session with you. I know there are others in the wrestling community that are doing the same thing as a one-on-one consultation. So I am offering my services as a third person to look over your work and be like, this is good, let's keep working on this, or have you thought about this lately, or what do you think about this, or explain this spot to me. I will have a lot of questions, probably a lot of notes, and I hope that you can consider that if you want to take that leap of faith. If you go to the About section in the Fourth Wall website, it does tell you who I learned from in seminars and networking. So I attended a WWN special guest WWE talent scout William Regal, and also helped out with Ring Crew that day, a Tucor Scopio, a Pat Buck, and a Jimmy Rave seminar. If anybody out there was just wondering. But yes, please make sure to go down to the description box and or comment sections on all platforms that this episode is released on, and check out the Fourth Wall website. Check out what new information I have put up there, new videos, and you can get a sense of who I am, Marie Shadows, and what I've done in the business aside from working at WWE and working on the WWE network. There's a lot of other things I've done behind the scenes. And if you still have questions, email me at squaredcirclepodcast@outlook.com, or if you are on Twitter, since that's my main account that I use for everything, send me a DM at Marie_Shadows and I will try to answer your questions as best as possible. Now, with all of that being said, thank you for listening to that pitch of checking out the website, checking out the merchandise, and maybe becoming a member. You could also become a member on marieshadows.substack.com too if you want to as well. Now, let's jump into the New Japan Cup of March 11th, 2025. I will be going over every single match and giving you my thoughts. The first match is Yuya Uemura versus Yoshihashi. Yuya is part of Just 4 Guys. It was originally just 5 guys because it had Sonata. Sonata was the leader. But Sonata decided to betray Just 5 Guys to go over to Bullet Club War Dogs, which, if we're going to be honest, it doesn't really make sense, but I have just accepted it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, Yuya versus Yoshihashi was okay. There was multiple chops from Yuya to Yoshihashi. We had just a chopping contest in the beginning of this. We got that double kick to Yuya and the hung up in the rope, some more chops, a pin, and Yuya ends up kicking out. Yuya tries to go for an armbar, but we get a rope break so that way Yoshihashi can recover. Yuya is very good at his hip tosses. Yuya is very good at his passion and the fire that he always brings to every single match. Yoshihashi over here is still the same. He could definitely hold his own in a one-on-one match. He is definitely a tag team specialist for life. His tag team partner is Goto, who is our IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. And in this match, we still get a Hurricanrana by Yoshihashi, this armbar counter by Yuya, and that sequence was amazing to watch. That sequence is really good. There are certain guys in New Japan Pro Wrestling that has elevated in a really good way, especially their in-ring ability, their wrestling when it comes to the matches, and how they plan out certain things. Because throughout this whole entire tournament, I've seen the most sleekest moves that have been done and counters and transitions that go smoothly. It doesn't feel like I'm watching a choreographed spot where wrestlers are like, okay, I have to remember this spot. Okay, I have to count how many seconds until he jumps. Okay, I got to stand into position. Okay, here he comes. Let me get the move ready. It's none of that in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Of course, there are certain moves that we do anticipate, such as the whole chopping fest, the whole forearm exchange, the fighting spirit in the middle of the ring, and the yay and boos. But it's not done in the way of like how WWE has it, where you have two big megastars and they punch and you get one side of the crowd going boo and the other crowd going yay. You sometimes get that with the New Japan crowd, but for the most part, the stuff that New Japan wrestlers do are not as predictable as other places, such as AEW, where everything is choreographed and you gotta wait for the spot. Things in New Japan Pro Wrestling just seems very smoother, and it's the new crop of wrestlers that are willing to adapt and to learn and to apply it in the matches. And I appreciate that. And that's why I wanted to highlight the Hurricanrana by Yoshihashi that got turned into an armbar counter by Yuya. We get some super kicks to Yuya. We get a sit-out powerbomb. Yuya kicks out. This sliding neck breaker that I saw was really amazing. Double knees, a cover, but Yuya kicks out. But then Yuya does his finisher, which is that double underhook kind of judo throw, which gets him the victory 1, 2, 3. And Yuya wins against Yoshihashi and advances. It was a really good match. Our second match is Ryohei Oiwa versus Zack Sabre Jr. Normally, I will say that this match is bullshit. This match was bullshit. Just because I don't like the way that Zack ends up having his matches. And I was going to say bipolar matches, because there is a big difference on who he wrestles and how he wrestles certain opponents. And I'm trying to find the words to really explain this, because I'm not a Zack Sabre Jr. fan. I respect the guy. I respect the craft that he does in the ring. I respect his wrestling ability. It is there. But depending on who is fighting him, I just don't like the way that the matches are put together, knowing that if he's fighting a bigger guy that is bigger than him, and I mean in terms of muscle mass, in terms of strength, maybe height, he somehow always finds a way to win in a ridiculous way for the match. Like, Ryohei Oiwa is part of TMDK. He got recruited. Ryohei also spent time in Pro Wrestling Noah to train. And when he came back, he looked great. He had a really great match with Zack Sabre Jr. He was focusing on Zack Sabre Jr.'s arms and working a body part and being a big man and using his strength. Of course, we had to get in some mat wrestling, some bow and arrow on Oiwa. That was from Zack Sabre Jr., the snap suplex, the side suplex to Zack Sabre Jr. Like, Oiwa was having the main advantage in this match. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to be skipping ahead, we get some Zack drivers to Ryohei, and Ryohei kicks out. However, we get a crucifix pin to end this match after all of the attacks that had been done on Zack Sabre Jr.'s arm and Ryohei working on a body part. And if you guys have been listening to me for a while, I always say that working on a body part is very important in working that in a wrestling match, because it can add story, it could add character layer. If you know that Zack Sabre Jr. is a technical submission wizard, you will go and attack his arms, because his arms are going to try and stop you from getting to the ropes. His arms are going to try and wear you down through those submissions that are applied to you. His strength are in those arms. So Ryohei was working on his arms during the whole entire match, throwing him around like a rag doll and doing all of this. And then all of a sudden, we get a crucifix pin for Zack Sabre Jr. to win and advance. And now after this, and binge watching the whole entire tournament, I know why Zack got the win over Ryohei, and that is to face Taichi later on to please all of the Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi fans. But didn't Tanahashi have his 10-point speech and say that he wants to push the younger guys? So how come Ryohei did not get this opportunity to be pushed into the tournament? Yuya got pushed into the tournament. Tsuji got taken out the first round, and it was like, all right, cool. What is he going to do next? Shota got pushed all the way to the finals, and he's a new guy. But Ryohei could not get the victory over Zack Sabre Jr. by really working on that arm, being dominant in the match. He could not get the victory. They could not have given him the victory so we could get a new matchup of maybe Ryohei versus Taichi, a first time ever, because these young guys still need to prove themselves to the older guard and the older generation that is still there. While the younger wrestlers don't really have to prove anything to the older guard, but it is still a respect thing that they face the older guard, so that way the older guard can maybe one day feel at ease and be like, okay, the new guys can definitely take over. They can work. They can have the crowd jumping and responsive, and money is coming in, that the old guard trusts them with professional wrestling and moving New Japan Pro Wrestling forward. Now, I will say here in this podcast episode, but I probably will maybe talk about it again, but in a different light. And that is when we get to the semifinals of Zack Sabre Jr. versus David Finlay, because now I understand why New Japan Pro Wrestling is behind David Finlay, but I will explain that when I get to that particular match with the semifinals. But I quickly want to say is that for me, Zack Sabre Jr. does not change. He does not adapt. He's a very talented wrestler. He's a very talented technician. And you don't want to be caught in the ring with Zack Sabre Jr. one on one because he may have you tap out. He is fantastic as a wrestler. But I have seen the same thing from him over the years. There is nothing new. There is nothing different. Just because he created a team called TMDK, which is the mighty don't kneel, and I totally get that. And he changed up his theme song and is more punk rock, and I really don't like punk rock music. I really don't. Especially the kind of theme song that he has. I just don't like that kind of music. It's not my thing. But regardless of that, nothing has changed about Zack Sabre Jr. It is the same Zack Sabre Jr. we've seen for years and years and years. It would be great if one day he came out, dyed his hair a darker color like black or brown, and decided to wear pants or decided to wear some type of long trunks and switched up what he does. And instead of being the baby face that he's been for so many years, switch it up, do something new, create some more layers to him rather than just being, oh, I'm Zack Sabre Jr. I'm the best wrestler in the world. I could wrestle. What else can you do, Zach? I could wrestle. That's it. I could wrestle. And it's stuff like that where it's like, do you have anything else to contribute to your character, to your layers of the storytelling that you want to create, the world that you want to create? Everybody praises Zack Sabre Jr. and is somebody's favorite wrestler. And I get it. But aren't you tired of seeing the same old person, the same old moves, the same old spots? Sometimes I can see it from a mile away and I already know the formula, and the formula is very comfortable for a Zack Sabre Jr. match. This is why I really don't like Zack Sabre Jr. I'm not a fan of him, but I will respect that he is a really good wrestler and you can learn a lot from watching his matches if you just want to focus on the wrestling aspect. But in terms of character wise, promo wise, that stuff needs to evolve and adapt. That's why when he was IWGP champion, I really didn't mind because, okay, cool, give it to him. He's been there for so long. Awesome, give it to him. But at the same time, it's like you should be changing because you got that championship title. That championship title should have at least sometimes change the wrestler into something they are not. Because once you have that title, you are at the top of the mountain. You have a target on your back. So therefore, you should be looking over your shoulder. You shouldn't have a quiet moment because you know that having this, you are the king of the mountain. And people are going to go after you. People are going to become your friends. Those friends might turn into enemies. Those friends might turn into snakes in the grass, and you may never know because your head is watching everybody else but what that person is doing. And do you see how much story could be created and the way that we can take this story into different paths, into different kind of cool little mini series because someone is a champion and that championship changes them and changes their character and adds more layers to their stories. That's all I want from Zack Sabre Jr. is to add more layers to his story because I really do not care about Zack Sabre Jr., the character. I don't know him personally, so I can't say the person. I'm going to say the character of Zack Sabre Jr. The story of Zack Sabre Jr., I really don't care. It's just another run-of-the-mill, I'm a wrestler, I'm the best in the world, I'm from the UK, I'm here to make my name. Oh, did I tell you that I'm a wrestler? I could do all these amazing moves. That's amazing. I love that. I love technical wrestling, but I've seen it way too many times before. And him being in a tag team for so long with Taichi, the only reason why that whole arc was enjoyable for me was because Dangerous Tekkers feuded with Gorillas of Destiny before Tama and Loa went over to WWE, and it was over the Iron Claw, and I basically documented that whole entire series. I basically talked about that whole entire story, and it was fun. It was super fun. I was into that story because it was surrounded by the Iron Claw and how much lore that has, and it was passed down to Taichi from a previous wrestler, and it had the soul of that wrestler in that Iron Claw, and get passed down to Taichi, would take over Taichi, and I totally get it. That was a very fun arc where it was a little bit different to talk about Zack Sabre Jr. back then versus now when he's a singles wrestler and you're able to be like, bro, what else is special about you? That's all I want to know. What else is special about Zack Sabre Jr.? And as I talk about Zack Sabre Jr., let's move on to match 3, which is David Finlay versus Evil. And that wasn't the most smoothest transition, but it's because later on when we get to the semifinals, I will be talking about David Finlay versus Zack Sabre Jr. So I guess match 3, David Finlay versus Evil. Now, as you guys know, Bullet Club right now is in a weird situation. I will try my best after I am done podcasting all these episodes of the New Japan Cup and giving you my thoughts on it. I will try my best to create the most in-depth podcast talking about Bullet Club and their situation and what Tanahashi has planned, because I don't know where New Japan is going at all. New Japan, before it decided to have this partnership with AEW, and AEW is dragging out New Japan Pro Wrestling, and even during the pandemic, there was some rhyme and reason to what they were doing. Except for the first Bullet Club Civil War that we all kicked out the Elite along with Cody and along with everybody else. And the famous line from Cody Rhodes when they were all eating during BTE and he says, "What the fuck is Haku's problem?" That was a damn good line, Cody. Anyway, we're doing what seems to be like another Bullet Club Civil War. But I think this one here is about time that we do so, because Evil represents House of Torture. People do not like House of Torture. Some people like House of Torture. I like House of Torture because, again, ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand where everything is coming from when it comes to the shenanigans of House of Torture. And now, yes, I do agree that all of the shenanigans that House of Torture does, it is very, very overwhelming. That is why a large chunk of people on the internet, when they were really talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling and they really wanted some change, they would definitely say that House of Torture is the worst and annoying, and I would agree. At that time, I would say the same thing. But the origins of it is that you have Gato, Jado, and Dick Togo. All three of those guys were in ECW. They were on their excursion. And so because they were in ECW and they came to US soil, they learned the ways of how to try and invoke emotion from the crowd. And every single ECW crowd were crazy in itself. So they were learning from the best of the best. And they took that and applied it over to New Japan Pro Wrestling. And for so many years, that is what they've been doing. They were like, hey, we should copy what the American wrestling does. And that's what they did. And then for the longest time, they rose up through New Japan Pro Wrestling. They created their own legacies and their own past. We have Gato now controlling Bullet Club. We have Jado now controlling all the new guys, all the baby faces. And Dick Togo is basically the leader, somewhat leader of House of Torture, even though it is evil. But without Dick Togo, there will be no House of Torture, in my opinion. And so they just applied this, but they did it in a very cartoonish, over-the-top way, because that's just how they probably saw it. And the Japanese fans took to it. The Japanese fans will always boo. And that's what you want. You want a crowd reaction. Now, like I've always said, and I said in the past, that depending on where New Japan Pro Wrestling is going on their NJPW tours across the island of Japan, every single crowd is different, because every single crowd does not know wrestling as much as an American will know wrestling. Like, we know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that we should not be knowing. We know stuff about kayfabe. The curtain is pulled back for us. We understand it. However, over in Japan, you'll have fans from the city. So like your Tokyo, Osaka, Sendai. Those are the three examples I always use. I need to know more cities in Japan. But those fans will understand wrestling a little bit more than the fans that grew up in the suburbs that don't get to have that kind of entertainment in their environment over there in the suburbs. So, depending on what you decide to do for the crowd of wherever you're going, you're going to get different reactions. Of course, you're going to be booing House of Torture if you're in the city. In the suburbs, you might get a mixed reaction because some people might find it entertaining, so they might cheer for it, or they might find it annoying, they might boo for it. So again, the fans across the Japanese island are all different, and they all have different levels of knowledge when it comes to professional wrestling. So this is why I have changed my tune from agreeing with people that House of Torture is annoying. Now I could give some type of backstory as to how it came to be for all the shenanigans and all the crowd reactions because of the ECW influence. ECW influence Jado, Gato, and Dick Togo. So now that you know this, David Finlay versus Evil was a very interesting match. It was an all-out battle between Bullet Club and House of Torture. House of Torture came out with their guys, and Bullet Club came out with their guys. Dan Maloney came off of commentary to be at the side of Finlay, Gato, Ishimori, I believe, and Gabe Kidd. I don't remember if Ishimori was there, but he probably was there. So all out battle, everybody is fighting in the crowd, and of course commentators and the ring announcers are all telling the Japanese fans to be careful. There's Evil choking Finlay with the chair, and they finally get to the ring, and that's when the bell finally rings. We get a backbreaker to Evil, a cover, and a kick out. There's the exposed turnbuckle because it wouldn't be a House of Torture match if the turnbuckle didn't mysteriously leave the corner, and they threw David Finlay there. So back first, David Finlay is clutching his back. Evil does that home run chair shot thing that he does. We get a table spot. Finlay spears Evil through the table. We get that front slam, which is like a dominator. Evil kicks out of the cover. We get some forearms across Evil. We get a chair shot to Finlay by Dick Togo. Of course, Dick Togo have to get in on this. The Scorpion Deathlock on Finlay, but then we get a rope break. No one has really tapped out on that Scorpion Deathlock that Evil does. And I wonder if Sting knows that Evil does a Scorpion Deathlock and what are his thoughts on it. Now, if any journalist or interviewer out there takes that question, shame on you, because I would like to ask Sting that question. And now we get into the shenanigan part of the match, to where Evil stops the kick. He's holding David Finlay's foot. He sends that foot into Red Shoes midsection, and that allows Evil to do a low blow. Of course, what House of Torture matches isn't complete if Evil is not doing low blows in a match. Then we have Gato comes in and stops Dick Togo from throwing the powder. However, Red Shoes over here gets up, and the powder is thrown in his direction. So 2 bumps for Red Shoes. And here comes Evil attacking Gato. Here comes Finlay with his own low blow. And then here comes Sonata. Sonata appears. He walks down the aisle. And Finlay takes this as an opportunity. And he's holding Evil. And unfortunately, Evil moves out the way. And here comes Sonata to deliver an attack to Finlay. We could say it was miscommunication, or we could say that it was on purpose, or we could say, I don't know. So after that, we get another sidestep from Evil, and Sonata hits Gato off of the ring. We get a magic killer to Finlay. This is when Dick Togo comes in and helps Evil do the magic killer. And then Red Shoes wakes up and Finlay kicks out of the cover. The match continues on for a little bit longer until we get some fighting on the outside. And I guess this was a way to save both of them without one of them having to either submit to a pin or submit to a tap out or even a knockout. But they continue to fight outside the ring, damaging each other to the point of Finlay outsmarting Evil and make it back into the ring before the count of 20. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not been following New Japan Pro Wrestling for the last good chunk of years, I don't remember when, they started to implement a 20 count rather than a 10 count when wrestlers are on the outside. And so, like I said, due to David Finlay being a genius at this point, he outsmarted Evil and went inside the ring and beat the 20 count, therefore making him the winner of this match and advancing in the New Japan Cup. And like I said, this was a great way to save face for both of them. So that way there would not be a win-loss record. While yes, we can probably consider a count out to be a win for Finlay and a loss for Evil, nobody decided to take the pin and nobody decided to tap out. So therefore it is a count out in this match. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is my review for the New Japan Cup of March 11, 2025. Just a quick reminder of who is moving on for March 11th. We have Yuya moving forward. We have Zack Sabre Jr. moving forward and David Finlay moving forward. The next episode, we'll be talking about March 12th, 2025 of the New Japan Cup that only had 2 matches. And then we will continue on our way until we get to the finals and we talk about everything. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any comments, whether they are good, bad, ugly, thoughts, you are more than welcome to share it, whether that is a comment on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast, a comment on marieshadows.substack.com. If you are signed up to the free wrestling newsletter, you can also leave that comment on Spotify. Spotify has now given the listeners and the viewers the tools to interact with their favorite podcaster on Spotify. So you can leave your comment there. You could also participate in the polls that I put up. You can also leave your comment over at Fourth Wall because this will also be up at Fourth Wall as well. It'll be everywhere. So if you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. I will read them. I answer everybody's comments and I appreciate any kind of feedback and any kind of thoughts. Do you guys think that we need a Bullet Club Civil War right now? And the civil war between Bullet Club and after they kick out House of Torture, which hopefully should be soon, apparently we're going to be getting a Bullet Club versus Hontai civil war kind of thing. Because I do not understand what Tanahashi has planned, especially with the backstage comments and the picture of him trying to recruit just 4 guys and blaming Bullet Club for wrestling fans leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. And of course, I had to say something because if you've been following what I've been doing and what I've been calling out, it is not Bullet Club or House of Torture, to be more specific, because during Tanahashi's 10-point plan, he acknowledged that House of Torture did the majority of the interference and fans were not liking it. So he acknowledged that, and he acknowledged that we should look at the interference and who's doing the interference, and it's House of Torture. Now, does that confirm that House of Torture is part of Bullet Club, even though House of Torture does not come out to Bullet Club theme songs, do not come out with Bullet Club war dogs? House of Torture is never in the corner of Bullet Club whenever Bullet Club comes out. So I'm a little confused and there should be some clarification. However, Bullet Club is not the reason why wrestling fans are leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. It is AEW. It is the sickos. It is the new way of thinking that Japanese wrestling sucks because of how AEW presents New Japan Pro Wrestling and Japanese wrestling style on AEW and overexposes it. And wrestling fans are not understanding the art and the love and the way that Japanese wrestling is done because of the presentation. New Japan wrestlers that go over to AEW are on a constant losing streak. And even the ones that make their debut is put behind a paywall, aka Ring of Honor, so no one is really going to know who they are. So if they do decide to go to the main roster of AEW Dynamite, just go along with me for this for a second. If they do head over there, everyone is going to be like, who's this? Oh my God, who's this? Another New Japan guy? Oh my God, why do they keep getting New Japan guys? It's the presentation that AEW does, the overexposure that AEW does, these dream matches that AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling create, but nothing happens after it. No other further storyline is happening. And if a storyline is to get developed between a New Japan wrestler and an AEW wrestler, that New Japan wrestler will lose on AEW programming. So it is not Bullet Club Tanahashi. It is not Bullet Club that is having wrestling fans leave, because how do you explain the sold out lines whenever Gabe Kidd has an autograph session, whenever Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors has an autograph session? Those guys sell out their autograph sessions. So tell me again how it is Bullet Club that is having wrestling fans leave New Japan Pro Wrestling. It is that New Japan Pro Wrestling forgot what it means to be New Japan Pro Wrestling because they have the partnership with AEW. And I know that people are going to get sick about me talking about it that way, and they're going to say whatever they want to say, but it is the truth. Ever since they had the partnership, the quality that New Japan Pro Wrestling always provides, the standard that New Japan Pro Wrestling provides, the pride that New Japan Pro Wrestling provides, have all went down in quality. Not quantity, because Tony Khan could just buy up everybody and take the biggest stars and be like, New Japan, you got to learn how to we breathe on your own, sir, kind of deal. So again, how is Bullet Club the ones to be blamed for something that could be in your control by getting rid of AEW because they have been leeches and they have not produced anything fruitful from this partnership? Unlike the partnership between WWE and TNA. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the official wrap up, because that's as much as we know, that's as much as I know. And me, I'm always going to keep asking questions because it doesn't make any sense. Do not blame the biggest faction of your company that gets people talking, that gets a buzz, that gets sold out merchandise, sold out lines. People want to see them and people really respect them. The crowd goes crazy for Bullet Club. Not House of Torture, really, but Bullet Club. You know, just a bunch of questions that I have. And if you have any thoughts on the whole Bullet Club thing and Tanahashi trying to recruit more guys into Hantai and go after Bullet Club and blame Bullet Club for something that he can't control because he's the president now and he has the authority to put the ban hammer on things. If you guys want to leave some comments on that, please do. I will read them. I will respond to them. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this full entire episode of the Square Circle Podcast, reviewing the New Japan Cup of March 11, 2025. Again, check down in the description boxes and also the comment sections for how you can support me and support all of the independent wrestling content creation that I am creating for you. There is the Fourth Wall memberships. There's the tape study series. There is the merchandise over at Fourth Wall. There is also joining the free wrestling newsletter over at Substack, marieshadows.substack.com. There is also subscribing, following, liking the YouTube video, youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast. And for any other links that I have not said, campsite.bio/Marie Shadows will tell you everything else and how to support me and how to support the channel. And you have been listening to an episode of the Square Circle Podcast by your host, Marie Shadows. And I'll see you guys on the next one.